Welcome to the Mike and Alison After Hours podcast with your hosts, mshelah and Alison Haas, talking business with real business owners in the Mid-Atlantic region. Today's episode is sponsored by Advantage Industries. When you need business technology, get Advantage Industries to protect and promote your business.
Good morning, everyone. This is Alison Haas on the Mike and Alison After Hours podcast with my magnificent and mighty co-host, mshelah. In case you haven't noticed, if you listen along and follow along, I'm starting today. So we're all in for a real treat. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth. We know for certain it will be off the cuff. So with that, Mike has graciously prepped me. Not that I don't listen when he introduces our show, but I just sit back and allow him to do the work. So this is going to be titled and is titled Alison Driving the Bus, because I am. We had a little bit of a guest snafu, so it'll be Mike and I going back and forth for your ears' pleasure. But today is the 7th of July, so I hope everyone had an awesome, long, restful weekend. I know I've needed that. And before we do get into things, we want to thank everyone for listening, watching, sharing, participating. I know our little live 10-second segment out of the coffee shop together for the first time ever got a huge hit. So we'd love if you listen to the other things with content because we really do work hard to bring you amazing leaders in the DMV area. And of course, how could you miss the banter back and forth between Mike and I? So right now, you may or may not be aware that we are doing another giveaway. Mike, when are we going to actually give it away?
In August, when Eric is a guest on the show.
Perfect. So Eric Williamson, how to work with jerks. So for no reason other than a fabulous title, I think we need to comment, like, and share on our podcast, which is on all platforms, literally. iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean. I actually need a cheat sheet for all these lists. Spotify, Stitcher, Audible, Alexa, TuneIn, anywhere. So Google our podcast, it'll come up. And if you like, share, please do so. You'll get a chance to win Eric's book, How to Work with Jerks. So without further ado, Mike, how do we want to get this started? Are we, like I said, we had a guest snafu, so it's just Mike and I. And we're going to catch everybody up on what we're seeing in our world, HR and IT. So, Mike, I didn't even ask how you are. How are you? I'm just steamrolling through. I'm trying to figure this out as I go.
I am fantastic this morning, Alison. Thank you. And yeah, I had mentioned to you that I'm seeing, again, self-proclaimed LinkedIn nerd. I'm seeing a ton of stuff on the socials lately about the workforce upheaval. And that's naturally going to have an impact on the IT world because we have to provision all of those people. And one of the things that we tell our clients is, if you're a doctor's office, we need to onboard and offboard your people through HIPAA compliance. And if you're a retail company, then I need to onboard and offboard your people through PCI compliance. And if you're a government, and blah, 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 blah. But for you, the workforce profession, that's really what HR is. It's all about the workforce.
Yeah.
There's a poop storm coming.
There goes the hair. Yeah. So lately, like in your world, you have actual events occurring, so to speak, where there are articles and, like the different cyber attacks on certain companies, and it makes the news. And, in HR, because it is people, it's a little bit more delicate. So that's not something that gets blasted, but we see trends, right? And so
absolutely.
Of course, and you and I were talking about this before the show, people are working from home. So what does that mean? That means people can move where their home is, and they can change their backdrop. They can change their hours. And depending on the industry, you may be able to continue to work from home. And so what I'm seeing.
Let's pause there for just a second. Why shouldn't you be able to continue to work from home? It drives me insane. And I think a lot of business owners are going to be very angry because they're mandating their people come back to the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And I think there's a significant portion of their employees are going, why do I have to do that? I've done a good job the last 18 months. I dare say if I hadn't done a good job the last 18 months, you would have fired me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why? So please pontificate. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Now, are you asking why they should not return or why they should return?
Yeah, I'm sitting in the employee seat going, hey, Mr.
Why
Boss
should I?
employee, why the hell should I come back? Why should I start getting in my car, driving
Yep.
30 miles one way
Yep.
to come to an office, lose an hour and a half, 2 hours of my day just to
Yep.
make you feel better? That sounds
Right.
like a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah. And I have to agree that, well, my perspective as an employee is that, right? Because I'm a producer. I've done extremely well from home. I've realized how much of an introvert I actually am. So you do get better work out of me because I'm recharged, because I'm not socializing in between my work efforts. I'm not getting exhausted from commuting. I'm not spending my company's money on gas going into DC and Virginia, which is a bear if you live in this area, or on parking. I have all my documents available to me on my computers to share with someone if they ask a question about something I wasn't maybe prepared for them to ask. But hey, actually, I do have a training log of all the things that we offer in our portal. Here, let me share my screen or let me send it to you after. And I've condensed my time in between turnaround with my follow-up after with things that they were asking about. I can maybe Skype someone and ask a question in the moment, right? So I'm more efficient from my perspective. If no one has noticed thus far by listening, I'm also slightly self-motivated and inspired, right? I don't need a lot of push, so I know not all people are woven that way.
Agreed.
And I also know, like, I don't have kids running around. I have 2 animals snoring behind me right now, but by and large, I can scream at them if they get loud. I can mute my computer real quick. I don't need to get up and like do something with them. So I don't have kids in the backdrop also preventing me from working, or a family here that needs me for more than what I'm doing at the moment. So I have coworkers that go to the office just to get work done because they can't at home.
Sure, I
But
get
from
that.
the employer's perspective, I agree with what you said. That sounds like a you problem, right? Like
why the mandate? Because I think everything you
right.
just said is absolutely valid. And
Yep.
I get that there is a segment of our workforce, maybe it's 30%. I don't think it's much more than that they do better in a work environment. I don't disagree with that at all. And if
Right.
those people wanted to go to the office, absolutely let them. But
Yep.
to arbitrarily mandate everybody, always, never, everyone, no one, really bad words in the business world.
Correct. There's a lot of gray in there.
They're all business suicide.
Correct.
It's right up there with, we've always done it that way.
Right. Well, and I think that is a great caveat to, like, it's the traditional mindset. This is what we've always done. You still haven't figured out how to pivot after 18 months of having to pivot. And it's fear-based, right? If I can't see you working, how do I know that you are? And in fact, I did meet with someone yesterday who's built in software to track productivity on his employees' computers.
From time to time.
I can't tell you, Mr. Prospect, that's horrifying to hear. But I was like, did you get any resistance on that? And granted, it doesn't matter. Like, they didn't get a say in it. But I just think, damn, man, like, our lack of trust in our workforce has shrunken. And so on one hand, I understand. If I can't see you, how do I know what you're doing? But on the other, like, allow me to give you the opportunity to prove me wrong. And my boss always says that, like, I'm going to trust you until you prove that I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And she gives us the opportunity to either work or not. And I automatically want to prove that I'm trustworthy in that scenario. But when you're going to hawk me and track me, I have a resentment right out the gate. Yeah. And I feel bitter and I feel bogged down. And I don't think it's fair, personally. Now, again, I'm 36, so I don't have 30 years of business doing it one way behind me, brick and mortar. I'm thinking of my father, like, I go to the office. No, I think
being an old person, so I've done it this way the last 30 years.
No, but I also know like mindset. Mindset is your greatest asset and enemy, which is, why you and I read so much, because we know that, right? I know my mind left to its own devices will always go back to what it knows, right? And what it knows is comfort and no difference, right? No change. Well, I'm sorry, everybody. COVID was all change. So, like, if you are older, bless you. And if you keep going back to the only thing that you know, it ultimately won't work out, in my opinion, right? And our world is so digitized now. I just think you're nailing yourself in a coffin if you're mandating people come back to work. Now, granted, again, industry specific. However, most of those industries had to go to work the whole time anyway, right? Like my dentist partner couldn't do dentistry virtually, right? Like he has to go to work.
Great.
His
Some
employees had to
things
go
have
to
to be
work.
in person. Again,
Some
great.
things have to be in person. However, many things now we've learned do not, right? So I think for those industries, give people the option not to, and see if you can boost your culture and your morale that way, and then organize systems to help your workflow consolidate behind the scenes so that you have like a vendor in your life putting things together, maybe two. But I think a lot of that is the fragmentation of your work practices and your lack of workflow and your processes, and the remote workforce just amplifies that.
So if we go back 2 episodes ago, we had on Kim Schatzel, the president
Mm-hmm.
of Towson University. And I bring Kim up for 2 reasons. One, at the age of 40, she decided she was going to pivot and completely change her career. So this
I
is a
love that.
woman with decades of experience.
Yep.
And her mindset's not closed.
No.
And you and I jokingly said in that episode, we've done 25 episodes now, and never once has somebody said to us, well, I'm the boss, so we're going to do it my way, or you're going to get out of here because I'm the
Yep.
only one that knows what the hell they're doing.
Yep.
That's not an effective way to run a business. And as you and I discuss almost every episode, it is never either or.
Right.
It is and both. Yes,
Yep.
I absolutely see a compelling reason why some people should be in the office. I don't see a compelling reason for everyone to be in the office. Certainly not every day.
And I do appreciate the sometimes for team boosting, culture, cohesiveness. I think it was last week I went in for the day and we worked on a proposal together, and it was incredibly efficient in person. I could help my peer and teach him the things I don't know. And I could sit with our manager and we could tag team and we could just show the computer. Like that was a great working day. So I absolutely see the benefit of coming together in person if you're comfortable and doing the work and walking through the process out loud instead of through a screen. Now, granted, the argument would then be, I can just share my screen and do it that way. Yes, we've been doing that. However, there's something connecting about being in person, right? You feel someone's energy, you see their body language, their facial expressions. Absolutely. So I think the sometimes, which is then that middle language, is absolutely fruitful.
So I don't know if you realize this, but you just created an excellent segue because you had recommended to me Jeb Blunt's book, Virtual Selling.
Yep.
And I'm about halfway through it. It's a good one. It's a long one.
It is good. Yep.
Lots to go through. And I had mentioned to you that the first, 10, 11 chapters didn't really stand out to me. But when I hit chapter 13, I had several light bulb moments. And I am, again, book nerd. I have read probably half a dozen books on body language. And I find that subject fascinating. And here's the thing. We all read body language.
Yep.
Whether or not we are aware of it. Our little lizard brain, the amygdala, takes 80% of its cues from what we see. So I could be really exuberant and call you an idiot, And you're still going to read most of my cues and think, oh, he's being nice, but I've actually just called you an idiot. That's how powerful body language is.
Right.
And one of the things that Jeb brings up in the book is that most salespeople, big surprise, don't put an honest effort into their video environment. And part of the reason that we are feeling burned out on Zoom calls is because of what's called cognitive load. Because the lighting, the person we're looking at may not be as good as we need it to be, because maybe they're not as close to the camera as we need them to be. We are straining a lot harder to read and see those verbal cues that we normally see readily in person. So our brains are, one, way more tired. And because of that, it makes it much harder for us to make decisions. Like at the end of a day where you've had 5 or 6 Zoom meetings, you can't decide anything. You get, I don't know.
Mush.
Yeah.
Total mush.
So thank you for the book. I'm absolutely loving it.
You're welcome. And that helped me a lot. And I have implemented videos in my strategy. I rotate email, phone call, video, email, right? And it's funny because I don't put a lot of effort into my backdrop, which is why this is just blurred. But I'm me, right? And I come through as me. And I even watched a video with a peer yesterday to show him, and it was like, okay, and I appreciate Jeb's recommendation to like really professionalize it. And I also appreciate my off the cuff Alison that comes through, because that has always been my selling strategy, whether I wanted it to be or not, right? I started with horses and selling that and myself as a business. Well, that maybe in context, me as the business owner selling my business, and then cars. And I've always just like told you how it is. And I've been me, and I've continued that through now, and it works beautifully, right? Because I know I buy from people I trust, and I buy from people who talk to me as a person. So I've carried that through. So my videos are that way, is the case in point. But I've also started rereading his book, Sales EQ. And although it is about selling, I've realized how much I've regressed in my communication. And I have this thing called pride, where I think I'm right. And I think I'm right about everything. And if you don't think I'm right, I think you're an idiot, right? So that doesn't come through with everyone, but it does at home strongly. And so I actually took the empathy quiz online, and I was an 83 out of 110, so very high. But the areas I need work on are like allowing you to be right. And
does the Sales EQ book come with an empathy quiz?
It gives you a link to go to do it. So yeah. So I jumped right on that.
I did not realize that. I need to go try that.
Yes, yes, because most high-performing salespeople are low EQ or low empaths, because we have an ego. We want to do well. We're driven by numbers. We're competitive. But the really good ones have that and the ability to taper their emotions and be empathetic. And so I was like, I know I've got a nice blend, but I also, of course, I want a 110 out of 110 or whatever, right? I don't know what would be perfect in that arena, but I'm aware. And that's also what this book talks about, being aware of your shortcomings. You're never going to not be who you are. And this is a little bit of like what we were talking about with being an entrepreneur and having different facets within yourself of being different types. I'd love for you to talk about that. But be who you are and be aware of who you are, right? Like you're not going to change who you are, but be aware of your shortcomings so that when you are approached with an opportunity to work on them, you can.
Yeah, I love that point, because what is it? The term sophomore literally means wise fool, because after a year of college, you know just enough to be dangerous. Yep. So the term sophomores means being a wise fool. And a few episodes back, you brought up that I don't know anything. Now I know a little, and then like I forget the whole curve to it. But you've got to be willing to admit to other people that I don't know everything. I have blind spots. And that was a real revelation for me to figure out that I am a supremely confident individual. Again, that's somewhat in sales DNA.
Yes. Yes. I act like it even if I don't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as you have pointed out so brilliantly, there is a downfall to that. It's very easy to be blinded to the things that you don't know. And one of the first things they teach you in sales is if a customer asks you a question and you don't know the answer, the best thing you can do is say, I don't know the answer.
Amen.
But
this is where you say bingo moment for the listening audience.
But you know as well as I do that it takes years of that blowing up in your face before you'll accept it and go, all right, I got to start telling the truth. And a commentary about the notion of telling the truth. Everybody lies. Everybody. Every single person on this planet lies. Now, that sounds harsh and it sounds critical and it sounds skeptical. It's part of people. It's part of being a person. Your priest at the church, he has lied to you. Your mom, your dad, they have lied to you. Your best friend has lied to you. Your boss has lied to you. The customer has lied to you. Rather than get upset about it, try to understand the context to why they did. Most of the time, again, not always, most of the time, it is in the interest of not hurting someone's feelings. Or, as we just pointed out with sales professionals, you want to remain the appearance of confident.
Yep.
But it's so easy that those things can backfire on you. And in a sales environment, the greater transparency is, the higher your success rate. It's almost a direct correlation.
Well, and it's always back to fear, right? If I tell you I don't know, you're going to walk away. I won't be able to meet your needs. If I tell you I don't know, you're not going to see me as competent. And I was literally just working with a new rep yesterday and said, if you don't know, say I don't know. I will ask someone else. That's why we partner together and we work together. There are things I don't know. And I said, in this sale, you saying we can, and in the end we can't, is a really big deal, right? Because there's some things you can say, yes, we can, you get away with, like, yes, the car has whatever feature and it doesn't. Not life ending, maybe, but like not really. But if I tell you that our benefit package contains something or we can do something and it doesn't, and they say great and they believe me and they sign up for it, and then someone goes to get this procedure and it's not covered, that's a big deal, right? So like there are different levels of lies but I've honest to goodness never been left out by saying I don't know, or just no, it doesn't. I know it doesn't, but I'm going to tell you I don't know, even though I know the answer is no. I'm going to lose your trust, and that's far greater of an offense, I think, than just saying no, we can't, and then they get to decide how important is that to me.
Yep. So you just touched upon two really important things to the sales process that I think a lot of business owners don't realize. And you can appreciate this, Alison, because you work for a large nationwide corporation. What are you selling this month? Every month you're asked that question. Or what are you selling this quarter? And hey, what do you got going on this week? There is this constant pressure to sell. And early on in my career, I was a Pavlovian dog. I would drool. What are you going to sell? Oh, I'm going to sell X this week. Okay, great. Then didn't sell. Well, you told me you were going to sell X. Oh, I thought that's what you wanted to hear.
Yeah, right.
So that gets back to that notion of transparency, right? Is, hey, look, I don't have a thing to sell this month.
Yep.
I certainly didn't want that. That is not the goal, but it's where we are.
Yep.
So with that, my company is using a new sales process, which I have found very refreshing. in that, again, it brought me back to some things that I knew to do and I had stopped doing, and my performance reflected that. And one of the big standouts for me, when you don't have a robust pipeline, every deal feels like it's the end of your life.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about
It
that in
is.
the training, and they call it the fragile egg.
Mm.
So the problem with the fragile egg is you will start doing wrong things in a desperate effort to protect said fragile egg. And that's the danger of saying something when you don't know it's true or not, or answering a question with some BS when you don't actually know if it's the case.
Right.
So the fragile eggs, and I'm willing to bet if you're a business owner and you're listening to our show and you are responsible for sales, you have not been through any formal sales training. And that's okay. But if you don't have a peer to talk these things through with, it's hard to recognize when you are doing them. And the fragile, if you take one thing away from today's episode, remember, it's not a fragile egg. It's a potential client. And that's all it is until the deal is actually signed. It's a potential client, nothing more.
Yeah. And that ties me back, another book, Fanatical Prospecting, also by Jeb, is great.
It's the Jeb Bush Show. Thank you, Jeb.
Yeah, seriously. And if I've learned anything and watched what works and what doesn't, the prospecting piece is something that as a salesperson, you must learn to embrace. Of course, I don't love that my pipeline doesn't automatically fill itself, right? And that people don't just come up and knock on my door and call me and say, hey, I heard and want to do business with me. I have to go after my business. Not all of it, but about 99% of it, right? And so if you are holding on to those eggs and hoping that last person that you keep chasing because it's all you've got is going to say yes, like rewind and start over. And I think that's important for business leaders and salespeople, and also why you and I talk about reading so much. Like, okay, get over it. People that don't like to read, there's audio, there's Kindle, there's podcasts, but just constantly keep your fingers on what's changing, what's coming, what's going on. Because again, it goes back to what we were talking about initially. Why the mandate to return? And if you are committed to changing your brain and feeding it food, right? Books, podcasts, whatever, you may be able to reshape, rewire, change your perspective and realize maybe the way I'm not doing it is the only way. It's the way for me that and this is going back to my pride and where I think I'm right. It's the right way for me, but my right way might not be the right way for everyone. There are lots of right ways.
Guaranteed
and
it's not.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And it's okay. Be willing to be wrong. It doesn't mean you're bad or defective or not a good leader or boss, but like you may just not be right.
Yeah, I think the word to take away there is different. It's never good or bad. It's never positive or
just
negative.
Different. Amen.
It's different. But
yep.
I can always learn something from you, and you can always learn something from me. Yep. And whether it is the first time or the 1,000th time that I've met with a client, I have an opportunity to learn. And going back to one of my granddaddy favorite books of all time, this is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Dr. Covey talks about the best way to learn is to teach. If there's a founding principle to why Alison and I started this podcast, it's that we want to share the things that we've learned. And we don't expect you to think, wow, these are 2 of the most brilliant bastards I've ever met in my life. No, we want you to grab on to some of the things that we say and go, I like that.
Right.
I'm gonna try that. Because you might hear the rest of it and go, it's white noise, or they're insane. I can't believe that Mike just said that on the air. Okay, fine. I am a little crazy from time to time. But I have the benefit of over the last 8 years, I've read close to 400 books, and I know you're right up there with me.
Yeah.
And, I'm constantly talking to people about strategies and thoughts. I did a LinkedIn strategy for one of our architecture clients yesterday. They were impressed by our customer account management team because they went to them and said, "Hey, I was wondering if you would introduce me to these 5 people. I saw that you're connected to them on LinkedIn." And our client was like, "That's amazing. How did you do that?" And I said, "Well, it's one of the strategies that our director of marketing, Mike, teaches us." He goes, "You think he'd show us how to do that?" And I said,
Love it.
"Absolutely." So I spent an hour with them and I recorded it and I gave them that. And afterwards, I sent an email to one of the principal architects and said, "By the way, I found these 10 people in your LinkedIn profile. If there's 3 or 4 that you're comfortable introducing me to, would you please do
Yep.
that?"
Yep.
So
The worst they
that's
can
how
say is
you,
no.
yeah. Getting
And I
back
think too, you said, here my computer's trying to update. It's just going to be a great Wednesday. It's you said, you may pull something that's brilliant. And I also thought, or you may hear something that you hate and it ruffles your feathers and it drives you crazy and you think about it all day. And I would encourage you to investigate why. Why does that bother you so much?
I hope I offend people from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know for me, like, why, if I listen to something and it really gets under my skin and I have something about it, I try and get underneath. Why? Is it because it challenges my belief system and what I think is true, and I've learned through my process that it is still true? Or is it because it challenges my belief system and maybe I'm not doing the right thing or whatever, right? So I think both are valuable. So tell me, what's going on in the cyber world?
Oh, it is a big hot pile of turd buckets right now. It's insane. So one of the premier cybersecurity companies out there, a company called Kaseya, and if you're in the business, you recognize that name and that brand. If you're not, Kaseya offers over a dozen different products and solutions that factor into cybersecurity and IT for businesses around the globe. They're a global company. You're probably using Kaseya and don't even know it, and that's okay. That's not the point. They had what was called a 0-day attack last week. So, in short, what a 0-day attack means is the method of the attack is so new that all of the protocols out there designed to prevent it didn't know to prevent it.
Whoops.
And 0-day attacks are really common. And yes, in 2020, you probably heard about SolarWinds. That was a 0-day attack. So there are intentional attacks that happen in the cybersecurity world. And here's the problem with that is somebody will read that and go, "Oh, well, they were going after Kaseya. They'll never go after my company." The first half of that statement is true. They were going after Kaseya. And we don't have all the details yet. We suspect it's older updates that haven't been patched properly. We don't know. I want to be really clear. We don't know that part. As of the recording of July 7th, 2021, we don't know that for certain, but we suspect that's probably a lot of it. But with that, and I've given this analogy before. Let's say you've got a brand new car. You just drove it home from the dealership. You drive to your house. You park it in your driveway. Now, is it possible that you would leave the doors unlocked? It's possible. It's your driveway, right?
Oh.
Okay. You probably wouldn't leave the windows rolled down or the sunroof open and the keys in the ignition, right?
Hopefully not.
Now, let me repaint that scenario. You didn't drive home. You drive downtown to fill in the blank major metro city. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but you know the bad spots in the city near you. You would not drive your car, new or old. Let's say you got a 10-year-old beater with 150,000 miles on it. You're not going to drive that car downtown, leave the windows rolled down, leave the car unlocked with the keys in the ignition, and just hope that everything's okay when you get back in an hour. Are you?
No.
So why are you doing that with your business? Why every single day, every single one of you knucklehead business owners? And if you're offended by that, good. I want, even if you just call me to yell at me and tell me what a jackass I am, fine. Take action.
Yep.
You are being reactive at best. At best. You are hoping nothing goes wrong. And when I put it in that context, when I do the car, nobody in their right mind would do that. Not on purpose.
So tell me what that looks like. So beautiful analogy, but like from a business perspective, what is leaving your car with the windows open and the key in the ignition in downtown, whatever city?
You have not had an independent third-party cybersecurity audit of your business in the last 3 years.
Okay.
And I say that because if you've at least had one in the last 3 years, you're better off than probably 80% of businesses out there.
Okay.
But that's how few actually do it. And here's why I say an independent third-party audit. Your IT company, bless their hearts, they probably set up antivirus for you. They probably put anti-malware on for you. Maybe they set up a backup for you. Maybe they're doing patching and updating of your operating system on all your computers for you. That's the extent of the cybersecurity that 90% of small businesses are getting that have an IT company. I want to be real clear about that. If you don't have an IT company, you're not getting any of that. You don't have any of that. So not only are you leaving your car parked downtown with the keys in the ignition and the doors unlocked, you're actually leaving the door open with a sign that says, please take
it. Free for you.
Please, free to a good home. Please take it. I don't want to pay the insurance anymore. That's what you're doing.
Okay. So the takeaway is get an audit at the very least.
Yeah, get an audit, because what happens with the audit is it gives you a very concise report of everything that you need to do. Now, the problem becomes there kind of twofold. People go, wow, I have to do all this stuff. That sounds like a lot of money. Yes, it is. But now you have the problem that you are aware of these problems. So when you do get breached, not if, when you do get breached, the moment they find out, oh, well, they hired Advantage Industries to do a PCI audit of them 6 months ago, and they did nothing with that. And wouldn't you know, the breach occurred because of a PCI issue. Funny. So you're now in it's double jeopardy. You're in twice as much trouble because you knew you had this issue and you did nothing about it. Now, so fleeting ignorance doesn't help, but
we can only be
so. Here's my point. I'll make this last point and then I'll shut up. Let's say your company's worth $4 million a year in revenue. Break that down and look at what do you spend on IT on a monthly basis. Are you spending 1% of that $4 million? I bet you're not.
Yeah.
Isn't it worth 1%?
Right.
Can't you spend?
That's a great way of looking at it.
I mean, when you think about how critical, you and I could not be doing what we're doing right now without technology.
Right. Yeah.
If a hacker ransomwared my laptop, I'd be out of luck.
Yeah.
I would be absolutely out of luck.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the data they could potentially get from my machine.
Right.
But I wouldn't be able to do my job.
Right.
So multiply that by the 10, 20, 30 people you have. Why aren't you spending that at least?
Yeah.
And it's the good news is it's really not a whole lot more than that. But you give a little more credence to the budget that you spend. And as a delightful segue, people aren't spending that on their HR either, in general.
Yeah. And I mean, really, from our perspective, our being my company, human resources is to protect your business. at the end of the
Absolutely.
day. It really is. Risk mitigation, compliance, and people are your greatest asset, right? Whether you have 1 or 1,000, they're your greatest asset. They're your boots on the ground. They're your company. They're the extension of you and your business and your strategy. And it's okay, maybe initially a spend, literally an investment, but over time to have some cost certainty and predictability and ability to forecast what you could be doing is huge and instrumental. And so what a fun episode. And I think if nothing else, we're super passionate about what we do. And if you're not, it's okay. But I know for me, and I do have the experience of owning my own business, my literal only passion, turned it into how I made my money, and I lost my passion. But I found a way to combine my belief in people and serving and helping and business into a business. Granted, I'm an employee of a business, but I'm passionate about it. You're passionate about it. You can hear it. And reading has helped me do that, and constantly evolving as a human has helped me do that. So takeaways: read, listen,
Reading is fundamental, folks.
It is. And find something to be passionate about where you're at. And if you're not at all, there's a lot of opportunity out there, right? So Mike, thank you so much. Any final thoughts?
I liked you driving the bus.
I don't mind
driving. We'll have to do this more frequently, particularly with the guest. I think that'll be a really fun dynamic. So,
great. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for allowing me to drive. Not that you had any say in it whatsoever, but thank you for listening and commenting and sharing on the Mike and Alison After Hours podcast. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
People helping people. Powerful stuff. Bye-bye.
Oh, right. That part.
Thank you for joining Mike and Alison After Hours. Tune in next time for another great business owner sharing valuable industry ideas. Want to be a guest on our show? Contact us at answers@getadvantage.com.